Stanford University.
All right, welcome everybody to Lecture 17, CS 193P. Let's get started. We have an exciting lecture today. Guest lecturer, Professor Ge Wang, he is going to be presenting a little bit later. So he wrote Ocarina and Leaf Trombone, and I'm interested to hear what he has to say myself. So before we get into that, let's do some announcements. As you all know, or you should know, final projects are due in a week from yesterday at midnight. So I hope everybody's on track for that. There's no late days for this. You'll need to hand in to us your code, obviously, for your final project, as well as keynote slides or PowerPoint slides for your presentation. Just a reminder, the following day, on Monday, we're going to have everyone that's handing in a project do a 2-minute presentation. And that 2-minute presentation, I'll talk about the demos in a moment, but you make sure you have all your slides ready for that and hand it in to us the Sunday night so that we can get them all compiled and ready to go. We're going to be presenting off of this laptop right here, so we're not going to be switching. We're not going to be switching laptops, and you won't have a chance to demo your stuff in simulator. So that's why we need your slides. And also send us a README, anything interesting that we should know. We're trying to get this videotaped as well, so if for some reason you would like a private demo, let us know. We can arrange that. So a little bit about the demos themselves. So again, this is June 8th. It's in this room, I believe, and it's from 12:15 to 3:15 p.m. So if you need to go on the early side of that, please let us know. If for whatever reason you can't make that date, let us know as well. But that's the scheduled time. Again, so it's 2-minute presentations. Everybody gets 2 minutes. At 2 minutes, you're going to get hard cut off, so no going over. Make sure you've timed yourself, you've practiced, and you fit into that. Again, you may be video recorded. You can't demo off simulator. If you really want to show your application rather than screenshots, I would encourage you to videotape it. Either videotape it off of a phone, or if you can get a screen capture utility and take a screen capture of your simulator, then you can do that as well. For those of you, yeah. So question is, how do you do screenshots with the iPhone? If you press the menu button and the lock button, the power button, that'll take a screenshot. And then when you sync it to Xcode, you'll see your screenshots all show up. Yeah, so make sure all of this stuff is embedded in the stuff that you send us as well, in the slides you send us, and you're welcome to use them there. Again, 2 minutes, hard cut. The presentations, we're going to follow them up with some informal demos. So we expect we're going to run about just under 2 hours, I believe, on the actual demos, assuming everything goes to plan. And then we'll have an hour left over where people can mingle and show each other their apps. Yeah. And then the final thing is if we can get this set up properly, we're going to try and get a little station set up here when we enter class so that those, if you have your iPhone with you, we can sync the apps from all the different projects onto your phone, and we can play with them during class. So, right, yeah. So make sure that if you do want this, that the phone that we're going to be syncing onto is registered with the developer program, and we have a provisioning profile for you. So, and one final thing is course evaluation. So course evaluations opened up on Friday, and they run until June 15th at 8 a.m. And we'd like everybody to submit a course evaluation. Tell us, be honest, what you liked about the course, what we could change. Tell us about Evan's T-shirts, and get your grade in, because if you get your grade in, if you get your evaluation in, we'll get your grade to you early. If not, you'll have to wait till June 30th to get it. So please do these little incentive there. But we would really like to hear what you have to say about the class. This is only open to enrolled students, I believe. So check it out. We can click on this link when these slides are available later today or tomorrow. And that's all I have for announcements. Without further ado, are you ready to go? Okay, here we go. Professor Ge Wang, everybody. Give him a round of applause.
So I think I'm just going to talk about something that I'm going to call creating new expressive social mediums on the iPhone. But I really want this to be more of a kind of an informal discussion of sorts. So I have various ideas and anecdotes that I'll present. But if you have a question at any time, would love to discuss, and I'll try to answer any questions you might have. So I'm an assistant professor at Center for Computer Research in Music and Acoustics here at Stanford, and that's Karma. It's right up the hill. I have a picture of it later in the presentation. I'm also the co-founder, CTO, and the chief creative officer of Smule. And it's really kind of this combination of academia as well as this commercial entity that Smule first grew out of. And I'll go ahead and just start with this kind of ageless golden quote by Arthur C. Clarke that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So while we're not magicians, we do try to make sufficiently advanced technology. And that's kind of something we keep in the back of our heads when we design things. And this is actually one of the other things that I think has informed and influenced the way we think about applications at Smule, as well as kind of music ensembles and performance at Karma. And that's the laptop orchestra. Here you see a number of laptops actually right outside Karma. That's the building in the background. We're doing one last SVN update, in this case, before we go to the perform at the Sculpture Garden here at Stanford. And central to the idea of the laptop orchestra here is that, well, we have these special speaker arrays, each of which is paired with a laptop and a human performer. And the idea is that you really have get to more of a physical artifact in terms of sound making. When you play a violin, the sound doesn't come from PA systems from around the room, it comes from the violin. And so the laptop orchestra, the idea is to try to approximate that, to provide more of an intimate sense of sound and place for the performers. So each of these is actually built out of an IKEA salad bowl. It's an 11-inch Blanda mat for anyone interested in constructing your own. Speakers are just standard kind of car stereo speakers, 6 of them, and they're actually a 6-channel amplifier inside that you can just basically plug audio signals into, and you have a multi-channel speaker array. And you put 20 of them together with humans, laptops, and various interfaces. You have, well, what we think of as laptop orchestra. Here, the laptop orchestra, Stanford Laptop Orchestra, or SLORC, is performing on stage with the Stanford New Ensemble and with musicians in Beijing playing traditional musical instruments using actually SoundWire, which is another research project here at Stanford and Karma, researching basically live performance over high-performance networks. And in addition, the laptop orchestra is a classroom. It's you know, there's one theme that runs through, I think, the work that I'm doing here at Karma as well as at Smule is it's kind of this natural interdisciplinarity, if that's the word. And the classroom for the laptop orchestra really, I think, embodies that, in that, you know, it's a classroom where you learn to do programming, sound design, composition, instrument design, live performance, all in kind of one natural continuum. And it's a lot of fun. And it's kind of the stuff that, you know, really, thinking back in the short history of Smule, really has informed what we do. You know, instrument design, as well as just ways of thinking about sound and space. And so that kind of brings us to Smule. And this is something that we started in summer of 2008, so we're still not yet a year old. And this was started by Jeff Smith and myself. And what really catalyzed this was, well, the iPhone, as well as the announcement of the SDK. That was in the spring of 2008. And in one short, less than a year, we're now grown up to almost 20 people. We're actually based right here in Palo Alto, and El Camino and Cal Ave. So if you go to like get a Mediterranean wrap, you know, come by and visit us. And we make what we call sonic media. And one central question to all this is, you know, what does it mean to be Smulean? And, you know, who are we? And that's something that we've been trying to define from the beginning. It's also something that we purposefully leave open. But among other things, we do interactive audio. So let me go ahead and just give you a quick demo of this joystick here. You're probably wondering why that's there. And hopefully this will give you a sense of both laptop orchestra, as well as kind of what I mean by interactive audio. So this is actually an instrument called Joy of Chant. It's an instrument that was created by Rebecca Febrink, Perry Cook, who's my advisor at Princeton, and myself when we were working with the Princeton Laptop Orchestra. And this is written in a programming language called Chuck. Chuck happens to be my dissertation project in research at Princeton. And it's a programming language for synthesizing, making sense of sound, and also basically hooking up controllers and various interfaces to control sound, basically to make instruments. So this Joy of Chant instrument is simply a synthesized voice. You can tell it's quite synthetic. No one's going to be fooled to thinking that's a real person singing. But the idea here is once you connect that to interactive kind of gestures, it has the potential to become expressive. So in this case, we just map it to a very straightforward commodity joystick. So when I squeeze the trigger, it sings. It doesn't get tired. When I move to different corners, it sings different vowels. And when I move smoothly between them, you get everything in between. If you twist it, you get vibrato. A little portamento the other way. This slider here, it's volume. And because this is a computer-generated model, you can, you can change the source, but leaving kind of this vowel structure intact. So I can make it breathe. And then finally, we can actually control the pitch from the keyboard. So here I'm just going to press, so I just press the key Z, C, B, A, D, G, W, E. It's kind of mapped like a fretboard of a guitar. Let's make it sing a little lower or higher. For example. Thanks. So that's what I mean by interactive audio, and also kind of expression that can be afforded when you actually connect real-time gestures, physical gestures, to real-time synthesized sound. And that's much of the work that's been going on in Karma and beyond in the computer music research world for many, many years. As well as this idea of creating new interfaces for musical expression. And expression is really kind of the other piece of what we think of as sonic media. And it's based on this fundamental belief that everyone is inherently creative, even people that may not think of themselves as such. But by setting the conditions right, we can really bring that out in everyone. Not just people who think of themselves as musicians or artists or instrumentalists, but anyone who likes music. And I would almost challenge you to find someone who hates music. It's just kind of hard to find such a person. And I think it's inherently in all of us, and we want to try to bring that out. And the third aspect of sonic media is the social component. And we're asking the question, in what ways can we use interactive sound in this notion of making use of technology for creativity, and how can we enable new types of social interactions between people? And on a technical note, we're actually using what we call CHIP, which is the Chuck programming language, on the iPhone. It's another one of these kind of like name-driven research type of things. So it's Chuck on the iPhone, and we actually have an optimized version of it, semi-optimized version of it, running on the phone. And that's doing all the heavy lifting in terms of sound and kind of interactive audio. That's what we're mapping when we're mapping accelerometer, multi-touch, and other gestures onto the phone. And backing up, perhaps asking a somewhat silly question is looking at the phone, and the iPhone especially in this case. We know what it is. It's a phone, it's an iPod, it's a browser, it's your calendar, it's a lot of things. There are now over 40,000 apps in the App Store. But I think when we're starting and we're still asking this question is, what is this really? Or in other words, what else can it be? And this is a question I think that we really started with when Jeff and I co-founded Smule. And it's through the rest of this presentation, I hope to provide some answers to this. But let's go ahead and jump in and look at how Smil went about trying to answer this question. And we'll start with the first artifact that we put out, which is Sonic Glider. We released this in September of 2008. Let me go ahead and get my phone out for a demo. In fact, I'll need a second phone, which I will pull out of here. So basically, when you open Sonic Glider, and you wait for like 5 minutes for it to load, you'll see kind of the Sonic Glider interface. And as you can see here, it's your kind of standard iPhone lighter fare. Flick it on. Accelerometer will change kind of its tilt. You can run your finger through it. If you keep your finger there too much, it'll start kind of crackling and smoking. So that's pretty standard, and there's something like, I don't know, it must be over like 100 lighters in the App Store now. But we thought of this a little differently, we think, in that we didn't really think that this was just a virtual simulation of a lighter. Your phone is the lighter. And we proved that by actually, if you tilt this too far, it burns the side of your phone. I don't know if you can hear that. Emitting this somewhat unnerving crackling sound. And that's the sound of your iPhone getting fried by the Sonic Glider. Additionally, you can perhaps use a more poetic gesture of controlling this, and that's breath. I can blow the flame out. And I'm actually doing that by blowing into the microphone that's located at the bottom here. And there's actually an algorithm in there that's picking up that sound and then tracking it, and then saying, okay, someone is attempting to blow out the Sonic Glider. Let's blow it out. If you do it just right, you can make the flame dance. If you do it too hard, you blow it out. And also enabled through sound is this idea of kind of a near field communication. So if I throw this first Sonic Glider into blowtorch mode, I can light the second one. And so this is actually all accomplished through sound, like the blowing. In this case, this is simply emitting a signal that this other one is looking for. And once it detects that signal, it says, oh, someone is trying to ignite me. I will ignite. But that's not all to Sonic Glider. There is a social component that we started very much to experiment with the Sonic Glider. And I don't know if you can see this. Let me try to attempt to use kind of I'll use Photo Booth as my projection apparatus and get this on screen. You actually see just a global visualization with points of light representing where people have recently ignited their Sonic Glider around the world. And this is what we're actually looking at now is not just users, but how users have actually chosen to customize their flame in the Godzilla versus King Kong Sonic Glider World Poll. But let me go back to the default lighter. I'll tell you more about the polls in just a bit. Just red dots. And the experiment here is, because this is such a personal and intimate piece of technology, can we provide a new type of social interaction here that isn't really based on identity, but simply based on, say, location and the knowledge that there are the people out there. In the Sonic Glider globe, you don't need to know who's out there. You just need to know that, well, there are other people out there in the world who have an iPhone and have paid $1 to get a Sonic Glider app onto their phone. And that's kind of your connection, the tinge of connection you have with the world, perhaps, and the others, like you in that respect. And we've been doing various things with this. By the way, here's an image of one phone lighting 7 others at the same time using the Sonic modem. We've also used this, as I mentioned, kind of as a polling mechanism. So the first poll we ever ran in the Sonic Glider was the US elections poll, and you can customize your flame blue for Obama, red for McCain. And then the color is also displayed on the world map. In fact, if I go there now, let's take a look. Use election 08. I'll try to pull this up. Yeah, so this may not be the most accurate polling method ever devised. But so basically what you're looking at is New York is exploding in a giant blue circle. So pretty much all the major cities in the US. Europe is like one giant. Paris, the circle coming out of Paris is so blue and so big that it dwarfs Europe almost. Basically, you get like about a 3-to-1 in favor of blue in the US and about a 9-to-1 in favor of blue worldwide. We've ran other polls. Super Bowl, the age-old question of boxers or briefs. Very, serious questions we want to address here. And resulting in probably one of the world's largest, most geographically diverse, and possibly most unscientific and most statistically skewed polling methods ever put forward. So go back to the slide here. So that's kind of the sonic lidar and its various components. And this brings me to kind of just thinking of this as kind of a physical artifact brings me to kind of the first answer, which is an answer my computer science teacher, Owen Astrachan at Duke, said would pretty much always be a good answer, and that's it depends. And that the wonderful thing about this device is that it's not one thing. Yeah, it's an iPhone, it's a phone, but it's also an iPod, it's a browser, it's a calendar, but now it can be a physical lidar. And in fact, that's kind of what we did. Was kind of along this line of thinking. We made it a lidar, then followed with a firecracker, a toy for your voice, and then ocarina as a flute-like instrument for your phone, the wind, and more recently, leaf trombone. And we really think of these as transforming the iPhone into different artifacts. And which brings me to Ocarina. This is actually our fourth product. It was released in November 2008. And this product, more than the other ones perhaps, really draws on the laptop orchestra and kind of what we've learned from the laptop orchestra in terms of building instruments, thinking about sound design and interaction. And also this idea of, the salable is like the salable speaker was made to essentially make the whole laptop a physical instrument so that you're not tethered to mixers, to PA systems, that the sound comes from right there. And all of this, I think, in many ways has informed what we do. And more recently, with mobile phones. Here's the Stanford Mobile Phone Orchestra, or MoPho, that's spelled with a PH, performing in one of its inaugural concerts. And so, so let me go ahead and give you a demo of the ocarina. So how many people here know of the ocarina? How many people here have the ocarina? All right, cool. So let me go ahead and pull up my photo booth here. So that's what the interface looks like on the instrument. 4 holes, finger holes that you can press down on, and in response, you can blow into it. And these green waves emanate to represent the breath. And then tilt is mapped to vibrato. So if you play, and with that, you can actually play music. And this is really trying to take advantage of a lot of the capabilities on this device. We got microphone input, sound is synthesized right on device. That's mapped, the pitch is controlled through multi-touch, and accelerometer is then used to control vibrato. So so let me try to play a little something for you. Make sure I'm in the right mode. So on and so forth. Thank you. Thanks. And that's the instrument of ocarina. I should just stay in photo booth here, because I have more stuff to show you. But that's not all. This is the other half of the instrument. And that's the same global visualization, but now not only do you see where other people are playing the ocarina, you also hear them one at a time. That was someone calling themselves Zarnark Land, coming from, here's someone calling themselves Ocarina of Time from Australia. And we can move, basically just hop around the world. Frozen Fire from the LA area. Moving rendition of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. This is not real time. This is recent. It could be anything from just a few seconds ago or to a few hours ago. But it's actually, it's a real person blowing into their iPhone to play music. And somehow there's something interesting in that. There's something interesting in the connection that you feel. People tell us that sometimes they play this, but just as often they would just go to the globe and just listen. And we've had people saying, I would just go to this app, go to the world stage, or go to the world listener in the ocarina, leave it on while I have dinner with my wife. This is kind of like their entertainment, and it's just, it's interesting, I think. So the design, and this is one of the things I want to address, is it's one of the, I think if there are takeaways of any kind, this might be it. Was to really think about the design of this. We didn't start by taking a large instrument. We knew we wanted to design an instrument, we didn't know what. But we didn't start with, say, I don't know, a harpsichord, or, say a guitar or a piano or cello, and then try to squeeze that into this small device. This is a mobile device after all. Its benefits, charm, is because it's so small and mobile. So we wanted to start small, and I want to keep it, kind of start simple. And so we did with the ocarina, which is really about the same size as an iPhone. And the other part of it is that we just kind of like started from a blank slate. We didn't really want to lock ourselves in saying we're going to do this on the iPhone. We looked at the iPhone and said, what can it do? What are its capabilities? And let's try to find a sweet spot where those capabilities meet kind of some high-level goals that we have. In this case, was to create an expressive musical instrument. And that was kind of what I might call the blank slate approach, at least for us. And the other is to see if we can preserve physicality. Because, this is, compared to, say, a laptop or, kind of a PC, as it were, this is actually perhaps a much more of a personal computer than any other PCs that we know of. I don't know where we go from here. Maybe the next more intimate computer might be implanted in our brains or something. I don't know. I don't know if that's a good thing, but the reality is that right now this is a personal computer, but at the same time it is an intimate and very mobile and physical device, and we wanted to preserve those aspects when we designed for it. And perhaps related to that is really try to adapt this technology for the human. And the fact that you have this phone with you at almost all times, and the fact that this is always connected, say via Edge or 3G, is also significant. Because now this is personal. It's more than this laptop. I can put my name on this laptop, also all my files, but this is my phone number. This is how you get in touch with me, right? So, and also I have this with me, pretty much at all times. And with GPS, I can choose to share that with the world. So that was the idea. And so, this is the ocarina in its two views, the instrument and the world listener, various views of that. And this video probably deserves a little playing. So when we released this, we actually released this with two teaser videos to try to show what the ocarina does. One is actually the Legend of Zelda theme song, which I just played. The other is this following one. So that was, of course, thank you. Thanks. You know, that's one of those songs that, you know, you literally have signs that says, no, don't play this anymore. For the ocarina, that song was actually Amazing Grace. That was one of the first scores we put out on the forum. And when you were listening to the world stage first few days after the release, that's pretty much all you heard was Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star and Amazing Grace. So that's kind of but this, of course, was the beginning to Stairway to Heaven. And the idea with this video is we wanted to show that, yeah, you can use this like a real instrument, because in many ways it is. And the gentleman in white, by the way, is the mule. He's our field marketing specialist. He goes around in a white suit, white top hat, and a Smule banner, playing the ocarina while juggling and riding a unicycle, spreading good Smulean cheer. All right, so some numbers. So we released this on November 8th, 2008, and we were pleasantly shocked when in 4 days it became the #1 paid iPhone app in the US and 20 other countries, and it stayed there for like 20 days. And this is significant, and we're now well past the 1 million mark in terms of download. And it's surprising in a very good way. You know, if a year ago, if you're to tell me that, you know, in 1 year, 1 million people will be blowing into their iPhones to make music, I would have been skeptical. But I'm glad people are doing just that. And which brings me to kind of the community aspect of this. What we're finding in our more than now million users is that most of them are not, you know, musicians or instrumentalists. They're simply people who like music. And you can tell this by actually the more than 1,500 user-generated musical scores on the forum. I'll show you an example of that. And more than, I think, 4 or 5 million views on the forum of people actually looking at these scores and actually learning from them. And well, this is what the forum looks like. And now we're basically, let's see, go to pop and rock favorites. So look at Dream On by Aerosmith, music only. This is Ocarina tablature. And basically all you gotta do is just follow the fingering that's specified here and the rough timing that's indicated by the spaces and the lines. And if you kind of already know the melody, this is actually very easy to play. You need no prior musical training or the ability to read music or anything like that. Just take out your iPhone, load this page up, and play. And if you search on YouTube, that's what you're finding. You're finding hundreds and hundreds of user videos of people blowing to the iPhone and scanning their screen. And it's like learning the recorder, you know, in front of a music stand. This is people learning to play music perhaps the first time on their iPhone. And that's interesting. And along with that, you know, more than 40 million snippets have been listened to on the world stage. It means people are doing this as an activity. People are pulling up the world listener and seeing what other people are playing around the world. We've also ran other things to kind of try to even further encourage the creativity that our users are showing by making things like this contest blows video contest featuring the Ocarina and YouTube. I'll go ahead and just show you some of that. It's one of our winners in the contest. As you can see in here, she's developed a certain level of virtuosity with this. You know, she's not just playing, she's actually performing, I'd say, in front of this. So I think it's very interesting. Here's another winner.
This is why I love the iPhone.
So here she's actually playing Music of the Night on the iPhone through her nose. You know, it's definitely an unintended use of the product. Yeah, so both of these winners have, you know, we send them each $1,000, a Smule t-shirt, and for her, we also send her a box of Kleenex. Let me see, I'll play one more here.
If you want my monkey head, you can't have it. I'd sell you my monkey head, but in this recession, you can't afford it. I will lease my monkey head to you after I've run a credit check. And if your credit report sucks, no monkey head for you. Rubber monkey heads eat rubber bananas, and rubber bananas, they never go bad. And rubber bananas, they never go bad.
So, yeah. While we're talking about community here, let's jump back to Sonic Lighter. So this is a timed snapshot of the ignition map, going back to, I think, to December 2008. And the red dots, of course, represent where people have lit up. And if we're to zoom in into the Pasadena area here, you see that someone has left a message to be seen. And, you know, we checked, this is actually, you know, one device. And it was the easiest way to do this is actually just to take the Sonic Lighter, of course, walk the path of high here, and basically every few steps, ignite the lighter and then blow it out, and then walk a few more steps and do the same. And they did this, and then they sent us this snapshot. So this is, you know, these are examples of people just really taking this and making it's something very creative and something, I think, very social. In this case, it's quite artistic in its statement. And so that brings me to, actually, Leaf Trombone World Stage. And this is kind of going on this continuum of making physical artifacts, making social experiences, and then trying to build a community from that experience and artifact. And so let me give you a demo of that. For this one, I'm actually going to wear these speaker gloves that we have for the Stanford Mobile Phone Orchestra. And this is just a simple, you know, it's a battery-powered speaker sewn to the back of these sports gloves, and the sports gloves have these tips kind of cut off here, so you can access the touchscreen quite easily. And the speaker is, of course, here to, it's like kind of a smaller version of the salable speaker. It's there to give you a sense that, you know, of here, this is where the instrument is. It also preserves the mobility of the phone. And in the Stanford Mobile Phone Orchestra, we're using now all iPhones and iPod Touches, exploring where we can go with this platform. So the Leaf Trombone World Stage, it's a couple of things. First, it's an instrument that has similarities to, say, Guitar Hero and Rock Band. And let me wait for this to load up. And you have a trombone-like slide. You can actually, you know, play, and then these two buttons give you control over the register. So And then you can play various tracks on this. And then, let's see, I'm going to play some All Lang Syne here. And when I'm playing, there's actually a music box that's turning on the side, and that's accompanying you, providing kind of both laying down the harmony, but also kind of establishing some of the rhythm. Thank you. And while I was playing, there were kind of these little leaves that were showing me where to play the next note. So in that sense, it's kind of like Rock Band. But in many ways, the Rock Band is kind of a game that masquerades as an instrument. This is kind of the reverse. So this is an instrument that has elements of a game. Because you can actually play it as an instrument if you like, or you can just have it teach you how to play this. And so that's kind of the instrument part of this. Now the social part of this is the world stage. And the idea is that after you feel you're ready for the world stage, you're going to submit a performance to the world stage to be judged and commented on by others. And so that then opens this possibility of basically, of another role you can actually have on the world stage, and that's one of being a judge. So the app will actually try to recruit users into panels of judges. And while you're judging, let me actually take these gloves off, make them rather hard to operate a laptop, even though easy to operate a phone. And once you're a judge, let me see if I can find an image of that. This is what the judging screen looks like. And you're basically on a real-time panel of judges with 2 other people from around the world, and that's live. And you are basically giving real-time feedback, real-time to each other in terms of judges, of how the player is doing. And you can do this through emoticons. And there's a number of emoticons ranging from great to rock on to I'm falling asleep to this is please stop this, you're hurting me. And then you can, of course, submit text messages. And the idea here is that it's among the in addition to kind of the social element here. Perhaps it's interesting that not everyone has to speak the same language in terms of the text and the comments, but it seems like the world does speak the same language of emoticons, and that's somewhat universal. And so far we've hit more than I think probably 300, 400,000 performances now for the world stage that has been judged, and we have actually a token system in the world stage that in order to perform for the world stage, you actually have to earn your right. And you do that by actually serving basically jury duty. You have to judge. And there are people who do both basically incessantly in this application. And so that's the world stage. And I wonder if I can, let's see, I'll go to the world stage. Give a quick demo of how am I doing on time? Okay, great. So I'll show you I'm going to observe a judging session of one of my performances of yesterday here. Let's see if I can bring this up. So that's the world globe showing where the judges are coming from. And that's the performer. So that judge is liking it. It feels good. It feels great when you get judges who are nice, because you don't always get that. This is actually one of the earlier performances. People, what's I saying? Very good. Had a little trouble there negotiating that passage. Yeah, that judge wasn't too happy about that. The judge is rocking out there. This is kind of a long rendition. Oh, here's the sonic glider. I like this one a lot. The waving actually a sonic glider. Kudos to our graphics designer, Trisha Heath, for coming up with these most expressive emoticons. All right, so, and at the end of this, I'm not gonna wait for this. I think this is the end here. You can actually get like a, no. All right. You can actually have, the judges will each give you kind of a 1 to 10 score, and that's averaged. And then there's actually a world ranking here that ranks the performers based on how well they're doing. So,
what's your ranking?
Oh, I'm not very good at all. Not very good at all. I haven't been playing as much as I like to be. But there's some amazing players on the world stage, and somehow the world stage just kind of finds them. Yes. So in terms of copyrights on the music, it's a very good question. Right now, of course, the music is not a recording nor a performance of those songs by the artist, but the main question is one with the composition of the song. In that case, it's kind of, in honesty, I think it's kind of one of those gray areas. And right now, we're kind of essentially invoking the safe harbor that YouTube and other kind of similar entities are using. And that if we are requested to actually have a particular composition pulled by a party, then we'll, of course, happily comply. So far, we haven't had any problems, but it's one of these gray areas that I think it's interesting to explore. It's a very good question.
John Lennon isn't with us anymore, so it's going to be the problem.
Yeah, there are a lot of also, there are a lot of just kind of public domain stuff that's actually on the world stage. Main question lies with the ones that are not in the public domain. For example, Auld Lang Syne, Amazing Grace, those you can kind of do until the crows come home. But, in terms of yesterday, I think the question is not as clear. Something that we are exploring as well, and we hope to find a good answer. So far, this is kind of the, we want to put this out there and let's see how things work.
Did you ever get a takedown request?
No, not yet. Maybe they just. So we haven't had a takedown request, and I'm wondering if that's. Sometimes think of it as like kind of computer music. It's like maybe it's just not enough people care yet, even though we care and we love it. But it's so we'll see. Any other questions? All right, so where to go next? So we want to continue answering this question of what does it mean to be Smulean, and making what we think is sufficiently advanced technology, making use of that technology, and very importantly, designing for the human. And the idea is that, technology really comes and goes. It changes really fast, especially in this realm of computers. And if you just look at actually the iPhone and the App Store, the App Store has not been a year old yet. And look at the impact it's already having. Over 1 billion apps downloaded, over 40,000 apps in the store and growing, probably faster than ever. This is a space where things are accelerated in terms of development time, in terms of time to distribute software, in terms of a lot of things. And it goes to show that, well, technology changes rapidly, but the point here is that people don't. And then in designing, trying to find the sweet spot again between technology that moves and changes with humans whose nature does not change as fast. I think that's a place where we think is very interesting, and that's there's one kind of a call to arms in this presentation. It's perhaps that is just this is a very human computing platform in the iPhone, and we cannot forget the human in the equation. And as far as we're concerned, both at Smule and at Karma, we want a depth charge on the social component, and to do so through interactivity, expressive audio, and unique interactions. And of course, the Stanford Mobile Orchestra is gearing up, and we're finding all kinds of different speakers that we can wear, not just on our hands, but perhaps on our heads, kind of Iron Man style on the chest, I don't know, like elbows, and we're trying to depth charge on that as well. And I'll leave you kind of these 4 slides, which is kind of how we think about the iPhone in relations of developing for it and thinking about it for design, and relations of doing the same on, say, a laptop. And on one hand, it's roughly equivalent. This is a computer. It's a miniature computer. It's got all the components: CPU, memory, interaction, display, networking. And say, I don't know, more strictly speaking, yeah, these are, both Turing machines. One's just slower than the other one. And they can solve the same class of problems, or linearly bounded automata, take your pick. But in many ways, it is more limited. Less CPU, slower CPU, less memory, less screen real estate. But in other ways, it's its own beast. It's more than the laptop, in that this is, like I said, a personal, intimate, mobile computing platform that all of us have with us. And there are things on this platform that we do that we wouldn't do on a computer. For me, it's, one example is Field Runners, the tower defense game that's on the iPhone. I love that game. Tower defense has been around for I don't know how many years on the PC in the form of Flash, web, and other kind of games. And for me, I thought they were interesting. We never needed to play them for hours at a time. And I think I've logged, I don't know how many hundreds of hours, okay, maybe that's an exaggeration, but a lot of time in Field Runners on the iPhone, because I can do that anywhere. I can do it when I'm waiting in line to get milk. I can do that, it's the first thing when I wake up. I reach over, grab the iPhone, play some Field Runners. I don't know. It's also how I get out of bed in the morning, actually. It's not by playing Field Runners, but by checking email on the phone. It's just like check email, and it's like by the time you get to it, you'll be sufficiently freaked out by a number of things that alarms you in the email, and you're compelled out of bed. And this is changing very much the way we live. And as another anecdote, I was going through airport security in Boston, and my luggage was picked to be randomly scanned for explosives. Now the individual doing the scanning saw that I had a Smule shirt on. It's like, hey, you made Ocarina. I saw you in the video. Like, oh yeah. It's like, do you have it? It's like, yeah, I do, except I dropped my iPhone, and sadly my iPhone is currently broken. So while he was scanning my luggage, for explosives, I pulled out my iPhone. I played yesterday for him, as just. This is something I can't really do with my laptop, and I don't always have my traditional Ocarina with me, but I do have my phone. Just another example. So there's another answer to this, and also it's the other answer that my teacher said is usually a very good answer, is that I don't know. The more apps that are in here, that just goes to show that, as developers, we are exercising our imagination to say what else can this phone be? What other interesting use cases can we make from this? There are things that will naturally port to here, and those are great. And I would also venture to say there's also another class of things that make sense uniquely on the phone. Can we find those? And so basically, these are kind of the things we've been talking about. And I'll just end with the final point to say, if we knew what we're doing, it wouldn't be research. So very much I don't know is a big part of the equation. So thank you very much.
For more, please visit us at stanford.edu.